Solving equations is something we learned in this chapter as well. And when we solve a quadratic equation, there's typically two solutions. Now, there are exceptions to that rule. One of them is when we have a double root, where the two solutions are actually the same number. But typically, we're looking for two solutions. When we do this, we want to make sure we collect all our terms on one side and set the equation equal to 0. So I am going to add 12 to both sides. And now I have x squared minus 8m plus 12 equals 0. Then we're going to factor. This is going to be x minus 2 times x minus 6, because negative 2 times negative 6 makes positive 12, but negative 6x and negative 2x add up to be negative 8x. Didn't realize that wasn't an x there. Then we set each factor equal to 0. And we do that because remember we learned about the zero product property, that if something times something else equals 0, then either this factor has to equal 0 or this factor has to equal 0. And that's why we set up those two little equations. Then we solve them, and we get x equals 2 over here. And on this equation, we get x equals 6. And so you have your two solutions. And of course, you can check those. 2 squared minus 16, so that's 4 minus 16, would indeed equal negative 12. And 6 squared, which is 36, minus 48, also would equal negative 12. Now our other example, we can use the square root property. So if you have something in the form of something squared, like this, something squared equals a number, then you solve it by taking the square root of both sides. Well, the square root of a number, we need to do the positive and negative square root. So if I take the square root of this, it's just going to be x minus 6. Then if I take the square root of 49, it's going to be positive and negative 7. Then I add 6 to both sides. And so my two solutions are going to come from x being 7 plus 6, and the other one would be negative 7 plus 6. And so my two solutions are 13 and negative 1.